Thank you for listening. This course was created to help you succeed in your educational journey. Learn more at baremetalcyber.com, where additional podcasts, books, newsletters, and cool merchandise await. Let's get started. Artificial intelligence is steadily reshaping the landscape of education and educational technology, often referred to as EdTech. These tools hold remarkable promise for transforming how learning is delivered and how teachers and institutions support students. Adaptive learning platforms, for example, can personalize instruction, tailoring content to a student's pace and needs in ways that traditional classrooms struggle to achieve. Automated grading systems save time for teachers, allowing them to focus on mentorship and higher-level engagement. At the same time, the rise of AI introduces significant risks. Questions of fairness, equitable access, and data privacy loom large, especially given that education is both a personal right and a public good. Governance therefore becomes essential, not as a barrier to innovation, but as the foundation that ensures AI enhances opportunity rather than deepens divides. Responsible adoption frames technology as a partner in learning, never as a substitute for educational integrity. The applications of AI in education illustrate both the appeal and the complexity of this shift. Adaptive learning platforms are perhaps the most widely known, adjusting questions, reading materials, or exercises based on how a student performs in real time. Automated grading systems can evaluate essays or assignments quickly, providing instant feedback that may help students refine their work. AI tutors extend the reach of education, offering individualized support outside classroom hours and supplementing teacher instruction. At the institutional level, analytics inform decision-making, helping schools allocate resources, track performance, and identify areas of need. Each application highlights efficiency and personalization, but each also carries risks of bias, inaccuracy, or misinterpretation. For instance, automated grading systems may undervalue creativity or penalize non-standard writing styles. Applications in education must therefore be viewed with a balance of optimism and critical care. Equity concerns are at the forefront of responsible AI in education. Not all students or schools have equal access to advanced tools, creating the risk that technology could widen rather than narrow existing divides. Bias in evaluation is another pressing issue. If models are trained primarily on certain demographics, their performance may be less accurate for others, reinforcing systemic inequalities. The digital divide further complicates matters, as some students lack reliable internet access or modern devices, leaving them unable to benefit from innovations. Disparities in outcomes may emerge across geographic, economic, or cultural lines, magnifying historical inequities in education. Addressing equity requires deliberate action, ensuring broad access, testing systems across diverse student groups, and providing resources for underfunded institutions. Without such measures, AI risks becoming a force of exclusion rather than empowerment. Privacy in student data is a deeply sensitive matter, as educational records often contain personal information that can follow individuals throughout their lives. The collection of grades, behavioral data, and even biometric inputs from learning platforms must be managed with rigorous safeguards. Consent is particularly complex when dealing with minors, requiring attention to parental rights as well as student autonomy. Secure infrastructure is essential to protect against breaches, which could compromise sensitive academic or personal details. Laws like the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act in the United States or the General Data Protection Regulation in Europe impose strict compliance requirements, but responsible organizations must go further, embedding privacy into every stage of system design and deployment. Protecting student data is not just about legal compliance. It is about preserving trust between schools, families, and learners. Transparency for learners and their families is vital in maintaining confidence in AI systems used in education. Students and parents should be informed when AI tools play a role in grading, tutoring, or administrative decisions. Clear communication about what the system does, where it has limitations, and how outcomes can be challenged prevents misunderstandings, and builds accountability. Feedback channels are especially important, enabling learners to express concerns and seek clarification when they feel they have been misjudged. Documentation must also be available to demonstrate how tools are evaluated and validated. By offering transparency, institutions respect the role of students and parents as active participants in the educational process, rather than passive recipients of opaque decisions. Trust in education depends on openness, and AI tools must operate under that same principle. Explainability in learning systems takes transparency a step further by ensuring that outputs can be understood in context. Automated grading systems must be able to justify the scores they assign, pointing to clear criteria rather than hidden algorithms. AI tutors should make recommendations that teachers and students can understand and evaluate, not simply provide answers without rationale. Decision support tools for educators should be transparent enough to be incorporated meaningfully into classroom practice. At the same time, usability matters. Explanations must be accessible for students of varying ages and educational backgrounds. An overly technical justification is of little use to a middle school student or their parents. Explainability ensures the technology does not replace the reasoning of educators, but complements it, allowing AI to serve as a guide rather than an inscrutable authority in learning. Human oversight is essential in the use of artificial intelligence within education. Teachers must remain the primary authorities in classrooms, with AI positioned as a supporting tool rather than a final decision maker. For example, if an automated grading system assigns a score that a teacher believes does not reflect a student's effort or creativity, there must be clear processes to review and correct that outcome. Escalation paths allow disputes to be handled fairly, ensuring students are not disadvantaged by errors or blind spots in the system. Integrating AI into classroom practices also requires thoughtful design, so that technology enhances instruction rather than replacing valuable human interaction. Guardrails against over-automation help prevent situations where students feel judged solely by machines. Ultimately, maintaining human oversight protects both fairness and the integrity of education as a human-centered endeavor. The ethical implications of AI in education are significant and multifaceted. Schools and institutions carry an obligation to ensure fairness in access to learning, avoiding the creation of new barriers through technological adoption. There is also a duty to prevent the manipulation of student behavior, such as using engagement algorithms that prioritize screen time over genuine learning. Supporting autonomy means respecting the ability of students and educators to make meaningful choices, rather than constraining them within rigid automated frameworks. Diversity in learning styles must also be respected, recognizing that no single model or pathway works for all. Education is a deeply human practice shaped by cultural values, social goals, and personal growth. Introducing AI into this space requires constant reflection on whether tools are serving these goals responsibly, rather than diverting attention to efficiency alone. The regulatory landscape for AI in education is still developing, but important foundations are already in place. Student privacy frameworks, such as FERPA in the United States, govern the use of educational records. Ministries of education and school boards often play oversight roles, setting policies for how technology can be used in classrooms. Sector-specific rules are beginning to emerge that address AI more directly, including requirements for transparency and bias monitoring. Anticipated expansions in regulation are likely to formalize standards for edtech tools, particularly as their influence on student performance grows. For institutions, staying ahead of these developments means not only complying with existing laws, but also adopting forward-looking governance structures that anticipate new requirements. In a field as vital as education, regulation plays a critical role in ensuring AI supports, rather than undermines, equity and trust. Lifecycle governance ensures that AI in education is managed as a continuous process rather than a one-time purchase. At the design stage, risk reviews can identify potential fairness or privacy issues before tools are introduced to classrooms. Once deployed, monitoring outcomes helps determine whether students across different groups are benefiting equally. Documentation provides accountability, allowing teachers, administrators, and regulators to trace how tools have been used and adjusted over time. Periodic audits further reinforce this cycle, ensuring that issues are addressed before they cause systemic harm. Retiring systems that prove ineffective or harmful is as important as deploying new ones, preventing outdated models from lingering in use. Lifecycle governance recognizes that education is dynamic and that AI systems must evolve alongside changing curricula, student populations, and societal expectations. Metrics for effectiveness in education AI go beyond technical accuracy. While it is important to measure whether automated grading systems score consistently, effectiveness must also be evaluated in terms of actual student learning outcomes. Do adaptive platforms improve comprehension and retention? Are students more engaged, or are they merely completing tasks faster? Teacher and parent satisfaction are also valuable indicators, as these groups interact closely with students and understand their needs. Inclusivity is another key metric. The tool may raise performance overall but still leave behind particular demographic groups. Measuring effectiveness holistically ensures that AI serves the broader mission of education to support equitable, meaningful learning for all students, rather than focusing narrowly on efficiency metrics. Organizational responsibilities fall on both schools and edtech providers to embed fairness and transparency into their practices. Schools must document and disclose their use of AI, ensuring that students, parents, and communities are aware of when and how these systems are applied. Training for teachers is critical, equipping them with the knowledge to use tools responsibly and interpret their outputs. Transparency must extend beyond the classroom, with schools providing open communication to communities about the goals, risks, and benefits of AI adoption. Procurement policy should also emphasize fairness, requiring vendors to demonstrate compliance with responsible AI standards before contracts are signed. These responsibilities ensure that AI does not simply arrive in classrooms as a black box, but is introduced with accountability and trust building at every step. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other prepcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Challenges in adopting AI for education and edtech often stem from resource constraints and cultural resistance. Cost is a major barrier for many schools, particularly those in underfunded districts, where budgets already struggle to cover essentials. Sophisticated adaptive learning systems, or AI-driven analytics, may be available only to wealthier institutions, deepening educational inequalities. Resistance from educators is another challenge, as many teachers are wary of automation encroaching on their professional judgment. Digital literacy gaps among both students and staff further complicate adoption, as not everyone has the skills to use these systems effectively. Finally, there is the risk of overdependence, where schools become reliant on automated tools and neglect the human dimensions of teaching. These challenges show that successful adoption requires not only technology, but also investment in people, culture, and long-term support. Cross-functional collaboration is key to responsible implementation. Teachers bring an understanding of student needs and classroom realities, while technologists contribute expertise in system design and data management. Policymakers provide oversight and establish frameworks that ensure equity, while parents and students themselves should have a voice in shaping adoption. Shared accountability across these stakeholders prevents responsibility from falling solely on one group, ensuring that diverse perspectives shape the tools, development, and use. Continuous review and adjustment allow systems to evolve with feedback rather than remaining static. When collaboration is strong, AI becomes an integrated part of a healthy education ecosystem. Without it, tools risk being imposed top-down, with limited acceptance or effectiveness in practice. Collaboration thus bridges the gap between innovation and real-world educational needs. Monitoring and auditing practices help ensure that AI in education maintains fairness and effectiveness over time. Regular assessments can reveal whether automated grading is consistent across student populations or whether adaptive platforms benefit all learners equally. Documentation of performance metrics provides transparency, enabling schools to demonstrate accountability to parents, boards, and regulators. Where possible, results of audits should be made public, fostering community trust and dialogue. Oversight boards dedicated to governance in EdTech can provide independent review, ensuring that systems align with institutional values and legal obligations. Auditing is not just a technical process but also a social one, providing a forum for reflection and correction. By institutionalizing monitoring, education systems guard against complacency and keep fairness and learning outcomes at the center of adoption. Training and awareness initiatives are vital for sustainable adoption of AI in education. Teachers must be educated in the capabilities and limitations of AI tools, ensuring they remain critical and informed users rather than passive operators. Curricula should incorporate AI literacy, helping students understand how these systems function and how to use them responsibly. Student awareness of limitations reduces over-reliance and fosters critical thinking, enabling learners to engage with technology thoughtfully. Communities also benefit from workshops or communications that explain AI tools, building trust and dispelling misconceptions. When teachers, students, and parents are all informed, AI becomes less of a mysterious black box and more of a transparent aid to learning. Training builds resilience and confidence, ensuring that adoption aligns with the shared goal of meaningful education. Transparency in procurement processes reinforces accountability at the institutional level. Schools and universities should disclose the criteria they use to evaluate vendors, ensuring that fairness, privacy, and educational value are central considerations. Responsible AI standards should be applied not only to the systems themselves, but also to the companies that provide them. Auditing vendor claims of fairness or effectiveness helps protect institutions from adopting tools that fail to meet expectations once deployed. Contracts should explicitly build accountability into terms of service, requiring vendors to support audits and respond to findings. Procurement transparency sends a signal to communities that technology is being chosen thoughtfully, with students' best interests at heart. By embedding responsibility into procurement, institutions extend governance from the classroom into the marketplace of edtech providers. Looking to the future, AI in education is poised to expand significantly. Classrooms will likely see broader integration of adaptive systems, with AI becoming a routine component of lessons rather than an optional supplement. Regulatory frameworks will grow stronger, setting clearer expectations for fairness, privacy, and accountability in edtech. Fairness benchmarks will be developed and applied, offering standardized ways to measure whether tools serve diverse student populations equitably. AI literacy programs are expected to expand as well, equipping students with skills not only to use but also to critique and shape these technologies. These future directions suggest an educational ecosystem where AI is deeply embedded, but also more carefully governed. The challenge will be ensuring that integration enhances inclusivity and empowerment rather than reinforcing existing divides. Cultural considerations play an important role in shaping how AI is integrated into education. Priorities for education vary across regions, with some systems emphasizing standardized testing while others prioritize creativity or holistic development. These differences influence how AI tools are designed, deployed, and interpreted. Cultural expectations also affect adoption. Parents in one community may embrace technology enthusiastically, while others may be skeptical or resistant. Diversity in learning needs requires sensitivity, as a system that works well in one cultural or linguistic context may not translate effectively to another. Local adaptation of AI tools is therefore crucial, ensuring that technology aligns with the values and practices of each community it serves. Education is never culturally neutral, and I must be flexible enough to respect that diversity while still upholding fairness and equity as universal goals. Practical takeaways for education and edtech emphasize 4 priorities. First, equity and transparency must guide every decision, from procurement to classroom use, to ensure that no group is disadvantaged. Second, teachers retain ultimate responsibility for student learning, with AI serving only as a complement. Third, governance structures policies, monitoring, and audits create the accountability needed to maintain trust with students and parents. Fourth, training and monitoring ensure sustainability, equipping teachers, students, and communities to engage with AI critically and effectively. These takeaways provide a roadmap for responsible adoption, demonstrating that innovation must always be grounded in educational values. When institutions follow these principles, AI strengthens learning ecosystems rather than weakening them. The forward outlook for AI in education suggests a future marked by more robust oversight and broader integration. Regulations specific to educational AI are expected to increase, demanding fairness audits and privacy protections tailored to the unique sensitivities of student populations. Schools and institutions will adopt fairness and privacy audits more widely, making them standard practice rather than exceptions. Greater investment in AI literacy will equip both educators and learners to understand and engage with these systems responsibly. Over time, inclusive education ecosystems will emerge, where technology is integrated in ways that support diversity and fairness. The outlook is both promising and challenging, demanding constant vigilance to ensure AI strengthens rather than erodes educational opportunity. The key points across this episode reinforce the central challenges and opportunities in education AI. Risks include bias in evaluation, inequitable access, and threats to student privacy, all of which can undermine trust and fairness. Oversight and governance, applied across the lifecycle of tools, provide the structure to mitigate these risks. Transparency is essential, both for students and their families, as it builds confidence and allows meaningful participation in educational processes. Training for teachers, students, and communities sustains responsible adoption over time. Together, these elements create a framework that balances the promise of AI with the duty to protect fairness and opportunity in learning. In conclusion, AI in education and EdTech must always serve the human-centered mission of learning. Fairness, oversight, and privacy form the foundation for trustworthy systems, while training and governance ensure they are sustained responsibly. Schools, teachers, and communities bear the responsibility of embedding transparency and accountability into every stage of adoption. By doing so, they safeguard not only student outcomes but also the integrity of education as a public good. The next domain to explore is law enforcement and public sector AI, where the stakes shift toward governance of justice, surveillance, and civic trust, raising a new set of ethical and societal questions. Thanks for tuning in to Bare Metal Cyber, your trusted source for cybersecurity educational materials, news, and insights. Remember to subscribe at baremetalcyber.com so you never miss an update. And visit cyberauthor.me for best-selling cybersecurity books that equip you with expert knowledge. Until next time, stay secure and stay vigilant.